Good afternoon, Gautam. Thank you for
Hi,
speaking with us.
afternoon.
As well as being an exhibitor here, you were, of course, on one of the early panel sessions, a particularly heated debate on trying to bridge that gap between the need for short-term gain and then long-term strategy. For you, what were some of the big takeaway points from that?
Well, firstly, I think you don't forget about strategy, but at the same time, there's always going to be pressure on costs for procurement CPOs and procurement organizations. And there are a number of things that can be done at a tactical level that keeps that balance of strategy versus tactical savings as well. And I think some of the key things were some of the practical examples that the panelists brought out in terms of what they're doing internally in their organizations.
And what about yourselves?
Yeah, and likewise from our side, we are a market intelligence company and we do a lot of research. And there's a number of things we find our clients and other people out there are doing from a tactical perspective. And during the discussion, I highlighted a few, like, for example, Morrison's changing all of their lights to LED and saving quite a bit of money on the ongoing cost of utilities, which perhaps is not something that they would have normally looked at, but was a procurement-led initiative that resulted in big savings as a tactical one-off thing.
So what are some of those typical, I won't say mistakes, but certainly areas that you find regularly come up where people are missing out on potential savings and benefits and efficiencies?
Sure. So I think there are many areas, but primarily most people have continued to focus on the key big categories, but there are hidden gems in the categories that you don't normally look at, and partly what is called the tail spend. And there was another session after ours where they talked specifically about tail spend. But this LED example, or Morrison's looking at bin bags, which would have been in itself a very small spend area, but because the saving opportunity was quite substantial in changing the kind of bin bags they were using, they were able to take out £250,000 in benefit on an annual saving on a spend category that nobody would have normally looked at. So that's one area. The second thing that we are finding is procurement influencing the revenue opportunity by actually getting involved with the end customer in changing the requirements from whoever the company is that they're working with, which actually results in a saving for the end client, but also improve margin for you as a supplier through simple things like, right now wheat is completely outrageously expensive. So can you change menus on as a catering supplier from wheat bread to rye bread or something else? Just changing the menu, so changing the demand to include products or services that aren't going through that volatile price increase at this point in time. And the third area is really around compliance with contracts that you've already put in place. So a lot of companies spend a lot of time in creating long-term contracts on travel, on office supplies, on other such temp staff categories, marketing categories, etc. And then people in the organization find a way to get around those contracts and go buy on a maverick on a different basis. And all that hard work that procurement puts in goes to waste. And hence there is a real need for procurement to take charge of monitoring compliance to contract and ensuring that there is adherence to that contract by as large a percentage of the business as possible.
So what are some of the innovation, I was going to say, is one of those big things that also came up as a sort of an offshoot of that debate that you were having. What kind of innovations are you seeing? What kind of things are you sort of recommending people do to inspire that innovation?
Sure. So, again, as a research company, we look out for things that companies might be doing as good examples to really sort of serve as a catalyst for our clients to say, okay, maybe we should look at some of these things. And again, we're looking for procurement-led innovations rather than from other functions. And a good example actually is Unilever, and this is in the public domain. But Unilever's emerging markets procurement organization actually found that in the current economic environment, it actually makes sense that even in Europe, they should change or at least go to market with smaller product sizes. So in other words, instead of having 2 liter or 1 liter shampoo bottles, if you go in with smaller bottles, you're going to increase customer uptake because people are trying to reduce their weekly spend or their weekly budget for each shopping trip. And these are things that worked historically in emerging markets where you can buy shampoo in little sachets, but they're taking that learning and applying it back in the Western world. So that's a good example of innovation, procurement-led. Another example is packaging areas where there's lots of complexity with lots of different specifications and so on. And procurement can take a lead in saying, why have we got these different specifications for the same end requirement? Can we consolidate? Can we use a specification that we have multiple supply choices for, and that actually is applicable to many more products? So there is a lot of innovation going on specification that is procurement-led in the current environment as well.
So that's really some very creative sorts of solutions, quite unique ideas. So obviously you are, as well as a speaker, you are an exhibitor. What exactly has brought you here to ProcureCon to talk about, to bring to the industry eye?
Well, firstly, I'm a regular here, so I've been coming to ProcureCon for the last 5 years, I'd say, and exhibiting at least for the last 3. We find it very useful. It's a great networking opportunity. It's a chance for us to showcase what we're doing with our clients. And frankly, we've had a very good sort of return on investment, if you like, in terms of getting access to decision makers, CPOs and others amongst our target audience, and in a very informal environment be able to convey our value proposition to them, which is far more difficult in other, if I basically cold call them, for example.
Yes, of course. So what are some of the things then that are coming out of SmartCube, say, over the next 12 months? What new innovations are you bringing?
Sure, so I think there's a lot going on at our end. We are growing quite rapidly. We grew 50% last year from a top-line perspective, and all that growth is just coming with us working with our existing client base and doing more for them, and then getting more work through sort of word of mouth. And frankly, at occasions like this, I also have many existing clients who talk about us with their peers, and frankly, we get a lot of introductions through that process. But in terms of new innovations, there's a lot of work going on currently on should-cost modeling, on finding ways to control the current volatility in commodity prices through commodity tracking, commodity forecasting, commodity hedging. And these are new sort of intelligence tools that we are building up and supporting our clients with. Supplier risk and supply chain risk is another key area. And then there's always our bread and butter supply market analysis and supplier intelligence type work.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for taking the time. Really interesting stuff. And of course, best of luck for the rest of the conference.
Thank you, and thanks for your time as well.
Cheers.
Thanks.